Welcome to Nobel Biz Webinars. Get ready for another session full of insightful information, tips, and knowledge shared by industry experts to help your contact center business grow.
McGuire Noble Biz. We are here with one of our exciting webinars for the contact center space. I am excited. I am here joined with Eric Dance. Eric is a pioneer, over 2 decades of experience in the contact center space. And so it is a pleasure to get him to come on. We have an exciting conversation about CX, Omnichannel, AI, number of different topics that I think are not only buzzwords in the industry, but we kind of want to utilize our experience and walk through how we can see companies utilizing omnichannel, CX, and AI in the industry. So Eric, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I know you have a lot of experience, especially in the contact center space. So if you would, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell the audience what you've done, and we'll go from there.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And so I've been in the CX business for a long time. So outsourcing, IT outsourcing, business process outsourcing in the SaaS environment and the contact center as a service environment. I've worked for companies like NICE CX1, IBM Global Technology Services, and a bunch of BPOs that are out there. I've learned several verticals in the industries that are out there, such as retail, travel, transportation, hospitality. I've worked with many customers, everything from SMB up to the enterprise level, outsourcing their needs for contact center, customer support, agent support, anything in that realm is kind of my level of expertise that I'm working with.
That's awesome, man. And one thing we want to talk about today, I know one of the topics is the state of CX today in the retail space. And so I know you have a lot of experience in there. How do you think the experience is right now for customers when it comes to retail in our modern BPO contact centers?
It's a good question because in the retail space, right, the retail environment is evolving almost daily, right? Consider the old-fashioned way of advertising a retailer, and then you're going into a store and you're buying something or a product or a service of something, right?
Yeah.
To the ever-evolving daily considerations of social media influencers, environmental, political, viral, and seasonal expectations and demands, right? The customer support has to align with that in today's world. And that's kind of evolving dynamically. It's not the old seasonal realm anymore, right? Or, whatever it might be. It could be a holiday season, it could be a time of the year, or whatever it might have been, or a product or service in that area. Now it's truly, you could be a meme stock tomorrow and suddenly your entire business has been upended and your customer support is still working like it was 10, 15 years ago. So that is what's evolving right now in CX today, right? A lot of legacy systems, a lot of siloed channels, limits to customer satisfaction, and today, more importantly, what's the brand doing? Is their brand suicide happening because these companies aren't ready from a CX perspective sometimes?
What do you think the customer's expectations are today? If I have one of these, right, what is my expectation of a brand? And, at a contact center, how do I support that? Right? So, yeah. If I'm going to buy a product in the retail space, I think it's difficult to just say, hey, you guys have to have voice, you need to have email, and that's it.
Right.
Right? And so reality is you need to be able to communicate with your customer in any channel that they choose. So how does a contact center really meet those expectations in the modern, retail environment today? Is it tech? Is it training? Is it AI? Where do you think, I'll give you 2 things. Where do you think the space is heading, and where do you think we're falling short?
Right. Yeah, good question. It truly depends not only on the product. You're holding up a phone, right? And you and I may use the phone differently than somebody else. So a lot of times, we're falling short, I'll say, in the realm of it's a product. But truly, from a brand perspective, it's their brand, right? They're trying to keep a customer loyal to that brand. And CX has to be the part that does that. You've got the differences between multi-channel, like you were saying. Can I reach a brand via a phone call or an SMS? But true omni-channel is the seamless integration between all of those. I might have been one that placed a phone call, but my kids aren't using a phone anymore, right? They don't even want to use text messages or email anymore. They want to use an app. They want to talk to someone, and that could be an AI agent. It could be a human agent, but it has to be done through a channel that they prefer. So brands have to be able to adjust by the channel and almost have the entire playbook available to them at any given moment. And then the agent or the tools that support all of those channels have to be ready to go, or else that person holding up that phone is going to be holding up a different phone next month, if something happens, and it's brand suicide, right? You got to be able to hold the customer and potentially upsell them or cross-sell them, and they then become your best advertisement, right? Because they're holding your brand everywhere.
So we have let's kind of use two scenarios. So you have brand A, brand B. Let's use the airlines. I'm going to pick on them for a second.
Yeah.
So there's been a brand recently, probably in the last year, that says the only way you can communicate with me now is via web chat or email.
Right.
Right? And then the other brand says, hey, we're available for all channels, but your experience might be somewhat suspect, right? We might do voice really well, but we're learning on how to be able to do better in digital, right? Which one's right? Is it better to isolate your customer to specific channels that you feel like that maybe you can give a better experience? I think it's probably revenue reasons, but or is it better to say, hey, you know what? We're learning, we're trying to adapt, and we're trying to create this customer experience, a good experience, no matter the channel that you communicate. What are your thoughts?
Right. And I think the latter is where they have to go. Are they there? That's a different question, right? I think forcing the channels that you have to use, it can benefit them from a cost perspective, sure, but it may irritate the customer, unless the customer is willing to get the information or the support that they need. For instance, I bank on, a secondary bank that I bank on is a fintech, right? They don't have physical branch locations or anything like that. I wanted to communicate with them about a question I had, but I didn't have time to call them. So what did I do? I went on social media and messaged them. They pushed me from social media to a chat, not within their app, but in a web browser. So it was either on my laptop or on my phone in the web browser. I have their app when they could have easily opened up the app and had a chat on the app, right? So I'm on channel number 5 at this point, right? No email, no voice, no SMS. I tried a social media. They forced me into a chat. I'm not on their app. So that's how many channels I'm already talking to them about. And this is a brand. This is a retail brand. This is a fintech, right? So I finally got my question answered via their own web browsing chat tool. But in every instance, I had to restate myself.
Yes.
Right. And I know you're going to ask the question about, does omni-channel work in that scenario where it's seamlessly going from channel to channel and the agents can have the same conversation without the customer having to rephrase themselves, right? So
I think you nailed it, right? Because you're talking multi-channel, omni-channel. And most people just, when you say omni-channel, trust me, I live in this space, you've been in it. Mm-hmm. When you say omni-channel, most people think just the ability to communicate in that channel.
Right.
What it sounds like you're talking about is basically, no matter the channel, I want that person to fix my problem.
Right.
right? So if I'm on email, fix it. If I'm on web chat, fix it. But the agent at that point needs to have the tools or the technology that will allow them to be able to get that information through any channel.
Right. And the same thing like you're saying is through any channel, but you're using agent, right, as a word. Let's play with that for a second and say agents, because if I'm communicating on multiple channels, not a single phone call, like first call resolution, right? This could be multiple calls, multiple emails, multiple SMSs, or multiple whatever channel, insert here, right? That could be potentially managed by multiple agents over time because I'm not doing it over a 10-minute period. I'm doing it over a 12-hour span because I have work to do. I have life to live. So I need my answer, but it may take me several hours to get to that. So I might be talking to an AI. I might be talking to a couple of different humans or a couple of different AIs. So again, companies, their brands, they need to adjust so that in the end, the customer satisfaction stays high, they're able to reduce costs, and the agent can also be effective.
Some of this is not based on technology. So I'll unravel it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's technology out there for Omnichannel, right? There's technology that'll consolidate and allow you to be able to find the information or have the agent skilled where they can pull up the history of the contact and be able to service. You work in BPOs. A lot of times BPOs still like to manage agents based off of channels.
Correct.
So they'll skill their voice agents because their agents are really good at voice. They'll skill these agents maybe in web chat, or they'll skill these agents maybe in one or two.
Right.
But the super agent, as I would say, is the agent that basically is just the customer experience agent. So they have multiple channels at their disposal. They can receive the history of the customer and quickly, no matter if it's a web chat or an email. Do you see that change happening in contact centers? You think there's going to be a change based off the demand of the customer?
I believe so. Like if we're talking retail, right? The retail industry is moving upscale. They're moving luxury oriented, right? They're moving value proposition based, right? Products and services, right? Retail is the brands that are winning are hyper personalized, right? So you need to be able to have a super agent that can cross channels seamlessly and be able to have a chat, a voice conversation, all at the same time, all being able to have the right tools in front of them. And it could be, think about it also from a holistic perspective. AI has to be woven in between all of that. And we'll have conversations about AI here, right? But just from an agent perspective, it doesn't matter if that's an inbound or an outbound, right? Because you could even look at it from an outbound perspective where an agent has a certain role to fulfill, but at the same time, maybe outbounding not only on voice, but SMS and other channels, right? And there's in the BPO world, they are trying to frame these agents by a task. But if you're building them as super agents, you also have to have the tools that are ready to go in that super agent capacity. And then an agent could be a human or the agent could be an AI. So you're still going to have to do training and adjustments and role playing and role assignment, right? So, you have to be able to look at that in multiple areas. And retail specifically is going the route where the other channels are actually playing more of a role, like in the airline, the traditional retailers, the online retailers, the hospitality area, those markets and those industries, they have to play in those other channels. They have to generationally, geographically, multilingual perspective, right? That all has to play a role in being able to provide that customer support and the evolution of what the customer actually looks like.
Super good points. I think one area, as somebody that talks to BPOs and contact centers, that I think a lot of companies fall short is they have a lot of systems, right? And what ends up happening is if you have multiple systems that an agent now has to utilize, it's hard to keep that same experience, just like you had. You talked to 5 different people, or you dealt with 5 different things in 5 different channels, and you had to explain yourself in every one of those. Now think about the evolution of a contact center. And I talk to these guys where they're like, well, I have my dialer, my inbound IVR system, and then we use this platform for SMS. And then my marketing team uses this platform for WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook Messenger. And then we have this as our web chat solution.
Right.
Inherently, that's broken, right? Unless you're sucking all that information into a CRM and then the agent just lives in the CRM. The problem here is that the system is set up to fail, in my mind, to where the agent needs the ability to have all this information at their fingertips no matter what happens. They can't be logging into 5 different systems in order to accomplish that task. And it sounds like in retail, it's almost like a non-starter that you need to be able to upskill your systems or your system to now be able to say, hey guys, we got to shrink these amount of disparate technologies that you have. And we really need to consolidate this, not only in the name of AI, because you got to give AI data, but also in the name of customer experience. You're really shooting yourself in the foot. I know you're a consultant. I know you consult with a lot of companies. Are you running into that where you still have these companies that have these multiple platforms that you're trying to help consolidate?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter the size of the company. A lot of them, if they've been around for a while, they have grown organically. And organically means that they bought something that they needed at that time, but they weren't road mapping or forecasting what potentially they would need in the future. Because again, it's the retail environment. One wrong episode happens geographically, environmentally, and your year is toast. So there goes your budget, right? So you may have been road mapping something down the road. A lot of things that we're seeing are, can you make a recommendation on what the future could look like for us and how we would get there? Like roadmap that. We can't make the change today, but we could potentially slowly get there. And you may be in a situation where you could potentially get something that's a holistic platform and turn things on slowly. And that allows you then to keep the costs within the restraints and then be able to turn things on as needed as you migrate from one platform to another.
It's funny. That's like my pitch, right? When I talk to customers that are just doing inbound, outbound, maybe SMS, right? And they're like, Mike, I don't need WhatsApp and Telegram and web chat, and I don't need, and I'm like, let's walk through this. Right. You don't need it today.
Right.
I said, but I have a 28-year-old. I have a 21-year-old. I have an 18-year-old just started college, and I have a 12-year-old. And I promise you, every one of those kids have a different communication style.
Absolutely.
And 0 of them is voice over the phone. 0.
Oh, I know.
And so what I'm telling customers is you got to future-proof your technology. You got to think years ahead. It's so hard. I mean, look at what we were just a couple years ago, right? We were talking multi-channel. We were talking just allowing the ability to communicate with SMS and email all in the same platform.
Yeah.
And now I'm talking to customers and I'm like, why purchase, again, me or anybody else, why purchase a solution that in a year from now you're making that same hard decision to migrate? Have you ever been a part of migrating a solution, Eric, in a contact center?
Yeah,
Is it fun?
No.
No.
None of that's fun, right?
No, it's
necessary.
managing. Call centers are hard to manage anyways. Now you add the fact that you're going to rip and replace another technology, and everybody fights you at every corner.
Yeah. And then add the retail environment where you may only be allowed to make changes 6 months out of the year,
Yeah.
not 12 months out of the year, because they have multiple seasonal or spikages or risk related events that happen where 6 months out of the year is the only time, and that's might not be 6 months in a row, where you can make changes. So if you're looking at platforms that you can plug in modules or turn on a media of some sort or a channel down the road, you're future proofing yourself, right? And at the same time, you're looking a little bit like a cost cutting process could eventually take place, right? You buy your base and then module it up. And
It's
instead of
interesting
buying
because
disparate systems.
before we hopped on the call, we were talking about retail brands that kind of got left behind. I'm not going to mention them,
Right.
but I think you point the reason why that happens,
Yep.
which is we can't do anything during this time. This is where we get 90%. I used to work heavy in the political space.
Mm-hmm.
So think about an election cycle. Do you
Yeah.
think we did anything in a presidential election year? Heck no.
No.
Right? And then we got another 2 years. So off election year is the time you have to get everything accomplished. And then everybody's like, we don't have any money to do anything.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and then you look back and you see these brands, known pillars in the industry, that are still working on green screens.
Yeah.
And I think you pointed out exactly why.
Yeah, and it's just organic growth, right? They a green screen is great for a certain thing, when it was appropriate back in the day.
Security and all that other stuff.
Yeah, but again, the data set might be the richest component, their rare earth material, right? Is that data. And they can't get rid of that GUI interface because it's tied to such rich data, in today's world with APIs and overlays and AIs, you can get to the data. You can migrate that data. Yeah, is it going to be hard? Yes. Is it going to be expensive? Yes. If you do it right, you can at least do a little bit of future-proofing yourself and ensuring that one hiccup isn't going to be brand suicide, isn't going to destroy your brand on a mistake you made in customer support, like limiting your customers to certain channels.
Yeah.
Or not personalizing the responses that you're making. If you jump into the AI swimming pool a little too early, without a reason to do so, that could also affect you quite a bit.
So let's kind of go into that. I know AI is obviously a big topic. It's definitely resonates when we're starting to talk omnichannel. We're talking CX in retail, CX really in any industry. Walk me through, so I know you do consulting currently. Walk me through what the process is when a customer says, hey, Eric, this is what we do today. We do all live. We do live calls. We do live web chat. We do live da-da-da.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go into AI, right? I think I can give my customer a better experience. I think I can save on agent cost. What's your process that you do with these customers that come to you with these needs?
Yeah, we usually take a look at what they've done from a basic automation, like a non-AI perspective. A lot of companies went from live agents to an IVR or an ACD of some sort of routing or some sort of movement, either in self-help on the browser or self-help in an app, or voice and other channels, sort of maneuvering the customer or the end user to the right agent or the type of agent or the type of team, right? We take a look usually in that capacity at these companies, and then
So
make
automation
recommendations.
first, I would assume, if they're not automating.
At least look at automation, right? Not even AI, because that's a stepping stone to the AI. Because a lot of times right now you could be on an IVR, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, or you're in an ACD where you're speaking to a virtual automation tool that's technically a baby AI, but it's not an AI, right? But at least you're trying to direct yourself. Heaven forbid, be in an airport where there's a weather delay, and you're sitting somewhere in an airport. All you hear are people screaming into their phones, "Agent, agent, representative, agent," right? That's not a good thing, right? Or you have a return that you need to make, and you can't self-help that, right, via an app or something. We then make recommendations as to take some of those baby steps in the AI function. Can the AI be helpful with the IVR or the ACD? First, just take a look at a baby step, right? Can the AI be more than a frequently asked question chatbot on a inside of an app or on a web browser? Is that enough for you right now, or do you need to implement an AI that's a little bit more robust, right? Remember the old days when a frequently asked question chatbot was 5 questions or 10 questions, right? We got excited, right? Now, if you're not having a conversation with that bot, and you get to know that bot's name, right? You're not anywhere close to being on par with your competitors potentially, right? So, we make recommendations as to what steps they want to take and what timeline they would look like, and then it goes back to like the agent tool sets. Can we do something modular and introduce something in the telephony side first, then maybe on the application side, and then the channel side? Like, which is the most important for you as a customer, and then which is most important for your customers to make sure you're resolving their issues, getting the information that they need, et cetera, right? So that's kind of that evolution. So we kind of generally move them a little bit forward at a respectable timeline at implementing what AI is. Now, AI could be different for everyone.
Sure.
So let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
What is AI for them? Is it a true conversational AI that relies on a large language model? Or is it more of a woven AI that helps the agent move things along for you to make the agent smarter, faster, stronger in resolving something for a customer, especially if there's like empathy involved, right? If the customer has to talk to a human, like in healthcare, AI can support that agent in that realm, but the agent is still the customer-facing entity.
Yeah. No, very interesting. I've talked to a lot of consultants in this space, and you're dead on. Start small. Find an area to automate and get a win. I always call it get early wins.
Yeah.
Right? Could be QA.
Right. Solve a
Could
problem.
be, yeah. Like I still run into a lot of people that are like, yeah, I got 15 agents in the Philippines listening to calls.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, walk me through that.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, they just go through these calls. And I'm like, how many calls are they listening? Well, we get about 2 a month. I'm like, you might as well just burn money.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to correct behavior if you're listening to 2 calls a month per agent.
Right.
Right. I ran call centers my entire life. Like, there's a better way.
Yeah.
So, like, that is a perfect scenario to say, hey, let AI come in and not only solve problems, because you're going to be able to QA so much more and get better agents, better coaching, also reducing cost. Because now you have a lot of agents that are sitting around listening to live calls that you can do it a different way.
Right. You can use them for
Same thing like you said. It could be as simple as, I don't want my people to have to press 1, press 2, press 3, press 4, press 50. I wanted just a large language model attached to my IVR. I sound better. It gives me a better brand experience. And that's all I really need, because my agent is actually on the other end solving a really complicated problem. And I can't introduce AI to that piece, but I can have it here. So spot on, early wins. I think you made a different distinction there too. AI doesn't mean automation, and automation doesn't mean AI, but it could be known as a similar fix to problems.
Right. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
go ahead.
No. And just one other thing was that a lot of times, everybody's racing to the humanless AI, right? They're racing to replace that person sitting in front of that system, right? You might be able to do a hybrid of that situation, right? Because labor is the biggest component there, regardless if they're sitting in a center that you're buying or renting space from, or they're working from home virtually. Um, Everybody's racing to get to that 100% non-human interaction because AIs can talk to us holistically, right? But there's got to be that little bit of a hybrid scenario where you might not know you're talking to an AI, so are we as a consumer, especially in the retail world, are we willing to talk to an AI?
Yeah. Are we
Right?
ready for that?
Are we ready for that? Or are we still going to talk to an AI? And in the end, when we get frustrated, are we going to yell at that AI and to get me to a human? You know?
Well, you kind of answered it when you're in the airport and crisis hits.
Yep. Yeah,
Last thing you want to do is talk to AI today.
exactly.
I don't,
Right.
right? Even though they can say, oh, the AI can help you and we'll rebook your flight and da da da. You're like, supervisor. One,
Right.
supervisor. Get me to a human. So you nailed the point of, is the consumer actually ready for that?
Right.
Right? And we know why the call center wants to do it. Everybody does, right?
Right.
It's a cost savings.
Exactly.
It's a cost savings.
Right.
Now, the question would be, do you think the consumer's ready to say, okay, would I rather have AI everything or offshore everything?
It's a question that I talked to a couple of companies about, right? We played sort of a brainstorming session and said, what about languages? Could we use live language translation instead of a language line, right? Just as a simple intermediary. Instead of having another human play the translator, could AI be the translator? Just as a use case, right? Could we do it that way? That way you're eliminating potentially multilingual costs, which could be actually higher than the amount of agents that you actually have. Right. And then rely on the agents that have the proper training and the proper empathy to handle the hyper personalization that your retail customers are requiring. Right. If you're buying $1,000 product and you have a question and you want to make sure they're buying that $1,000 product every 2 years, you better be ready for that customer, because that customer may be much more demanding than say something that's more of a disposable or commodity driven product, right? So you may be able to use AI in more of that commodity driven environment where the human needs to be there, right? So which scenario can we play that off of each other from an AI perspective, right? And that's kind of where we have to be. I don't think the contact center is going away. I think we're going to get to a point where the human is going to be smarter than it is today, and the AI is going to be smarter than it is today. And if we can figure out that happy medium by use case, by the customer's needs, and obviously the end customer, then those brands will be successful. You'll see those brands win over those competition, and the competition won't be able to get their brand back.
So if you're going to give like some actionable takeaways when we're talking about building your omni-channel, scaling that, looking at AI as a consultant, what are some actionable takeaways if I was a contact center and I said, hey, we're doing voice, we're doing email, we're doing web chat. It's primarily all live. We have some automation in there, but what takeaways could you say if I want to advance that?
Mm-hmm. The easiest one right now is, depending on your product or service, right, and depending on the type of persona that your customer is, right, can an AI naturally speak to your customer, right? Regardless if it's a certain type of support, right, but can the AI, if it had right training like a human agent, could it replace a person, right? And that's something that has to be a deep dive. Don't just shout out yes because you want to save the cost of the agent, right? You might wind up spending more money on AI and the support that goes with that AI than the actual human cost, right? So we want to be careful in there. So a lot of people that we're talking to is AI is good. AI can be right for you, but we have to take a look at what is the use case, what's the problem that you're solving, and then ultimately the first question is, will your customer be ready for it?
Yeah.
You know,
Will they adapt?
will they adapt to that? Me talking on the phone to an AI agent, I might do that, but that AI agent needs to be able to be as responsive as a human, an AI virtually on a channel that's not voice. 9 out of 10 times we're already doing that in one capacity or another. We're already talking to an AI in a contact center. So, if I'm in a contact center, I need to have the platform that's going to be able to handle all of those channels and then be able to handle that hybridness, right? Can my humans work the platform? Can my AIs work the platform? And is my customer comfortable enough with what I've set up?
You got a ton of experience, ton of knowledge in the space. Tell us a little bit about your consulting business, and obviously our audience is contact centers. I know the ones I talked to today are desperately looking at omni-channel AI. So how can they reach out to you to maybe get some guidance and help?
Yeah, absolutely. So the company is, consulting cooperative. We're using the word cooperative because it is a group of experts in the field, consultants in multiple industries, as well as different types of, I'll say, backgrounds. I come from a BPO and ITO background. I have people that are in cloud and AI. In multiple industries from healthcare to retail, travel, transportation. People that reach out to us either on our LinkedIn page or directly to me or one of my, cooperative consultants. We are a co-op, so we work with each other. So if I don't have the AI expertise, I have a consultant in my cooperative that has the AI expertise. So that way we can brainstorm with customers, make recommendations, and look at how we can solve a problem or fulfill a need. And that's plain and simple. So we'll recommend the best in class products and services that that company could potentially utilize, right? So we'll bring those forward to them. We'll make those recommendations, and then hopefully over a period of time, build a roadmap so that they're more successful, and in return, the consultants that are in the cooperative become more successful.
Awesome. Anything to leave the audience that you would like to maybe tell more about AI or omni-channel?
The biggest thing that I think is going to happen is in the retail space or in other industries is there's going to be a mass wave of AI flowing over everything that's out there, from the unified communications to the contact center services, moving these things from the traditional on-prem or legacy system perspective into the new age of AI, interwoven with all of these tech platforms, especially in the cloud and things like that. One of the biggest things that we have to know is that they may be true waves. There may be a flood of waves where we all get flooded and don't know what to do with it. Let the dust settle a little bit before, I'll say, things are made in haste, right? Decisions are made in haste because you may be putting an egg in a basket or all your eggs in a basket, right? That potentially could crack in the future. So you have to be in areas that are reliable, that have history, that have the experience from a platform perspective, a technology perspective, and an expertise perspective. So you have to take a look at those. If I left something here as a little bit of wisdom is, don't ride the wave, go with the flow, right? So, if you want to ride the wave, that's great. If you want to be an early adopter, that's awesome. Go for it, because without the early adopters, we won't learn. But the rest of us will kind of go with the flow, and we'll see what's best to breed and go with those.
Well, I kind of used it as like the $5,000 plasma TVs back in the day, and now you can get the 5K now for $320. So
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a wave and
Yep.
that was a flow.
Right.
And so we needed the people to buy the early ones
Yeah.
to get to where we're at today with price.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we'll all get there, and we'll all look at it, and we'll all see how it evolves, right? And the retail environment is evolving every day with different types of customers, different type of products and services, and the support that goes with it. We have to be careful so we're not blowing through these brands. I'd like to see some of these very successful brands stay around for a long time.
I think the biggest advice is go out and seek help. Find some people like Eric and his team to be able to advise you. You don't have to do it alone, right? We're not experts in things that we don't know. So I think there's plenty of help out there and plenty of people like you that can give cautious advice and actually actionable ideas. So I appreciate you joining today. I think it's been awesome. I know the Noble Biz team and the people that watch this would thoroughly get a lot of information here, and love to have you on next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.